It took me a long time before I got up the guts to even come here. I'm 60 years old right now, and I only came out when I was 57. I've known it about myself all my life, but having a very deep religious background, I did not feel comfortable, acknowledging this about myself.
When I finally came to the conclusion, when I realized who I am as a human being, I'm at a crossroads in my life. That's a scary moment. The world's not very forgiving.
I didn't come out until I was 38 years old because I was so freaking terrified. And at that point, I'm like scared to even leave the house or the car, waiting to go into an appointment. And things shouldn't be like that. People wouldn't be dying because they're so terrified that they'll be outed in their town, that they would rather just die of whatever issues that they have.
I started to do some research in my local area. Okay, well, who's a doctor that I can see that can help me? And here in the suburbs, there's nothing.
Just being a patient and going to a doctor is absolutely terrifying. I don't want to have to out myself every time, and I want to be respected. We deserve that.
After about a year of therapy, I realized, okay, I gotta go meet some people who are like me. And I came to Saga. That's where I met my first trans person. Saga is the Sexuality and Gender Acceptance Community Center. It's one of the most welcoming, open groups that I've ever experienced. I really feel like we save lives.
In 2017, I met Josh Blakesley and just happened to get into talking with him about starting some sort of community organization for LGBT plus folks in Montgomery County, which is where I'm from. He basically said, that sounds awesome, we should do that.
We wanted to be a hub in the community where people who may have been marginalized could come together in the same space and have a community that they find in solidarity with each other. Some of our leaders just shared, their horrific experiences, to be frank, here in the suburbs. They're looking for doctors who were safe. And as we talked about it, we said, why not we start talking to doctors?
We found that people downright just avoid basic care, but also critical care for fear of being mistreated or discriminated against.
The work that the Welcome Project is doing now involves bringing together cohorts of trans, non-binary, and intersex individuals, and also bringing together cohorts of doctors to address this problem.
Trans and intersex people experience a ton of violence from medical providers, and then the onus is on them to teach providers how to give them care. And it's a big reason why trans people don't go to the doctor.
We're embarrassed. We don't want to tell anybody. What's the first thing we do? We go on the internet. I've seen a lot of people who are faced with this kind of try to figure it out on their own and do it on their own. And I think that's dangerous because there's not enough education.
We started with members of Saga Community Center and their doctors who they felt safe with. And then Dr. Jimmy Ruiz reached out to us and said, what if we fashion our own training program that our LGBT plus cohort creates, and then we work with doctors to make it something also effective in their context?
Learning on the part of a clinician does not end with the residency training. It's lifelong. There's a lot of garbage out there. There's a lot of opinions out there. The best part of this collaboration is resources are being generated by an organization that's committed to the community's best interests.
Delighted to be with you tonight, to talk about something that really many of you have brought to my attention. The need for greater understanding, awareness about trans and non-binary healthcare.
Back in June, there was a panel discussion hosted here at Jefferson Abington to share our experiences from both sides.
We share a lot of medical stories, and some of them break your heart. There's no reason why in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, in the Abington system, or any of the hospital systems, that we can't do better.
Walking into a waiting room, you have to announce your name. If you haven't changed your name, your legal name, then you've got to say, with a beard, my name is Susan. Then when they call you, they're gonna call you sitting in there with a beard, Susan. You can imagine how that makes you feel. It's horrible.
I have horror stories, and specifically ER horror stories, of being asked things like, oh, are you going to get the surgery? And I'm like, I am here because I have a rash, and now you're asking me this thing that's very invasive about my body, and I don't know you. What is, quote, the surgery you're referring to?
I went to a dentist actually recently, and I had a toothache, but then the conversation turned into, oh, how do you identify? What do you mean your pronouns are they, them? You know, I'm already a black person, I'm a fat person, I have this other thing that's now on top of it. You're my dentist. What does this have to do with that? What kind of care am I trying to get? Fix my tooth.
You could just come out and use your last name, and they refuse to, and they want to out you in the middle of the office, causing a situation where you have to walk out with people that are homophobic or transphobic and following you out to your car in the parking lot. I've had that happen. Doctors not knowing the proper amount of testosterone that I should be on, just handing me needles and taking them home and being like, here, figure it out. I was only on T for 1 week, and I had a lump in my throat that was actually cancerous. My primary care physician was convinced that I had grown an Adam's apple and thought that it was because of testosterone and wanted to take me off of it because they were so uneducated about what the hormone what it even does. Like, it's insane, where you should be terrified to go to your own primary care provider.
I think that we had, when I was in medical school 3 or 4 years ago, an hour or two focused on this conversation, and that's it. We have to find a way to educate people to be better for patients.
The hallmark of the patient-physician relationship, that you are approaching them as an individual. Sometimes that gets lost in the structure in which we are expected to practice.
This is an issue that a huge cohort of students are interested in, and it wasn't 5 years ago. It is a slow evolution. People want feedback, and I do think when we do the wrong thing, we want to get better.
We already are lining up so many medical offices and doctors who actually want us to be a part of this. That already is giving me chills. One, we're helping, our panelists actually find closure by giving back. And also just getting doctors and nurses talking to us after, the competency trainings we've been having. Like, oh, I never knew that. Oh, I'm questioning myself. Oh, I never knew I could have pronouns. Just for opening doors.
And we hope to standardize the training so that healthcare practitioners all across the country can get this training and become competent.
I was lucky. I was sitting in the chair with my hoodie on. She walks in, and they're calling me by my chosen name. It looks like everything should be fine today. Are you okay with getting the hormones? I said, yeah. I just want to be curled up in this little ball. She goes, okay. Well, my last question is, how did you plan to celebrate today? It was the first time anyone really acknowledged me for who I really was. I took that as an obvious sign. I must be in the right place, right time. I hope they start to incorporate this kind of awareness in schooling.
We have some amazingly courageous people who are willing to be asked questions that are difficult questions, that doctors and nurses and other medical professionals just want to know, and they're afraid to ask.
My hope remains that the impact will be that no matter what an individual's gender identity may be, that they are comfortable going to a provider.
I want all people to connect with gender in a more interesting and deconstructed way, because I think then everyone gets freer.
I so want things to be easier for younger trans people. I don't want them to wait until they're 57, and I want to make it as easy as possible for them.
I guess the last message I would want to give is just meet me, meet me as a person. I'm a person, and I think we'll get along just fine.